Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the Future Fashion Talk Show by Think Ocean CUHK. I'm Yasul, a project coordinator of Think Ocean CUHK, along with my teammates, Emily and Tiffany, who will later be moderating the talk show. With over 100 chapters worldwide, Think Ocean is a youth-led environmental initiative dedicated to increasing global awareness on environmental issues, policy change, and widespread engagement to protect our one blue planet. The Future Fashion Talk Show is dedicated to addressing concerns on sustainable fashion and how we consumers can break away from fast fashion. We are very honored to have Kay Wong, a fashion designer turned green artivist, to share her journey in advocating change to the fashion industry through her two fashion labels in Hong Kong. Kay founded Tomorrow by Daydream Nation, which is a sustainable brand that practices ecologically intelligent design, aiming to restore the environment. She also founded Fashion Clinic, a design collective that empowers people to re-experience fashion through upcycling services and education. And before we start, if any of you have questions, please feel free to use the Q&A function, and we'll be addressing them by the end of the session. Okay, so now let us welcome Kay Wong.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
Thanks, Kay, for coming and joining us today. And I'm Emily. I'm a freshman year student majoring in global business studies at CUHK. And together with me, I have Tiffany today with me, and she is also the host of the day. And we'll be asking you some questions. And if all the participants you're interested in asking Kay some questions, you can just feel free to drop us some question in the Q&A section in the Zoom. Yeah. And maybe now I also ask Tiffany to introduce herself a bit.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Emily, for the introduction. My name is Tiffany, and I'm a year 2 business student, also at CUHK. And we're very excited to learn more about Kay as well as her thoughts on sustainable fashion. So, Emily, we can begin.
Thank you, Tiffany. So Kay, we would like to ask you some questions regarding your brand and also how you start up your brand. And first of all, we would like to ask you what inspired you to build a Fashion Clinic and also Tomorrow. Let me introduce a bit. Like Fashion Clinic is a design collective which established by you and your partner with a joint mission to explore the possibilities of sustainability and also the value of textile in making culture. So Fashion Clinic is majoritarily encouraging the modern day customers to better take care of their clothing and to choose well and also to buy smart. And we understand this rationale behind, but we also like to ask you more in depth about what inspired you in building this Fashion Clinic and also Tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay, so prior to getting into sustainable fashion, I ran my own fashion label with my brother for 10 years. So towards the end, it just felt so exhausting to be running a business rather than being just creative. And there were lots of different kind of problems. So I closed my fashion studio and label in 2015 and spent 1 year in Copenhagen, where that was the first time I actually experienced kind of a slow living. And I also met a lot of designers and creative people from Scandinavia and Eastern Europe. And there was this one girl, actually, her name is Lenka, and I saw that she had a blood tattoo on her body. Blood tattoo is a tattoo that you use your own blood and do the tattoo on you, which will fade with time. But then she put fast fashion labels on her body too. And I asked her, why do you do that? And she was like, fast fashion is so bad, it hurts. And I think that was just like a really big impact, because from then on, I started looking into what the problems were behind fast fashion. The documentary, The True Cost, actually was the main inspiration for me to start researching more and going into sustainable fashion in the first place. Like all the problems with the cotton farming, the low wages for the factory workers in Bangladesh, for example. Like there are lots and lots of problems that fast fashion has kind of sped up. yeah, so that was kind of like the turning point for me to turn from running a normal fashion label going into sustainable fashion. And I think the first two things I tried was to not buy new clothes for 1 year. And I think that just somehow gave me a lot of press or attention, because people were like, why is a fashion designer saying that? And why would you like to do that? It's what I do to earn money for my living, but I'm saying I don't want to buy any more new clothes. And then the second thing was that I set myself a rule to not use any virgin material, because I felt that there was already so much extra surplus damaged material within the fashion industry that anyone or everyone could already make use of, that we don't really need to tap into more virgin material from nature. So that was my turning point and how it happened, kind of.
Yeah, I really like
Yeah.
that concept of, sorry, Emily, of like not buying new clothes. It's very difficult for everyday life to kind of incorporate that. And so what I want to know is, how should we keep up with like fast fashion trends, with like new trends changing every season or every month? So how can we do that, but also be sustainable at the same time? Is it finding fabrics that is recycled, or just trying to redesign our existing clothes?
I think there are so many ways to just be creative with catching up with the trend, although I've already gone past that stage. Like, I don't really feel the need to follow trends anymore in different ways, but for people who'd like to follow the trend, I think there's so many ways. Like, you can, I mean, for like getting a fresh look for yourself, you can consider buying secondhand, you can consider clothes swapping, and then with just basically, I think everyone has everything you need in your own wardrobe. It's more like you need to reorganize your wardrobe to see everything you have, mix and match. Of course, repairing and redesigning are ways you can kind of give your wardrobe a new look every season, I think.
Okay, thank you for answering this question. And also, we also understand that your brand also have a service called the Fashion Clinic Wardrobe Awakening Service. So actually, how did you come up with the idea of like repair, refresh, and also redesign? As we know that these 3 R's are the currently aims of this service, and also with the new current advance of the 2 new themes about restyle and rearrange. Can you like tell us more about what's the rationale behind and how it can further promote like sustainability and sustainable fashion at the same time?
Actually, it was a very long process to come up with what my new business should be about, because I've set myself some rules and a border that I think should be the basics for what a sustainable fashion brand should be about. Of course, it's difficult, but we felt that everyone basically has most of the items you need in your wardrobe, and to keep fashion, or in order to make fashion circular, we felt that repairing what you have and redesigning and refreshing your clothes to give your wardrobe a new look would be the most sustainable thing to do. So that became the basis where we think, okay, this is what the service we want to provide. So that's how we kind of started with the 3 R's. So I mean, with repair, a lot of our clients come to us with old jeans or jackets. So we work mainly with patchwork, the darning stitch, sashiko stitching, in order to do some kind of visible mending, because we feel that you don't have to hide that there is any damage or hole in your garments. So we kind of try to highlight that as just for everyone to remember their little story with their hole or wear and tear. And then with reshape and redesign, I guess because fashion is about reshaping like in different seasons, you have different styles. So basically by reshaping your garment, making it into a crop top or lengthening your dress, that is what fashion is about. And then redesign is more like we can help you turn a pair of jeans into a jacket. So it's more magical, like bigger changes. So that's our 3 R's. And because we have some of our friends who, and like they've got problems of having an exploding wardrobe. So then we started giving out this rearranging and restyling service for our friends. And there are also really good books by, for example, Maria Kondo about, you know, decluttering, reorganizing your wardrobe. And I think that's a very easy way for you to see what you've got arranged in colors and by item. So that's kind of like a more hidden service we have, because that's, I mean, we focus on repair and redesign currently. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a very nice way to put it. And a lot of the times we forget that we can actually fix our clothes rather than just throwing it away and buying new ones. And now I would like to know more about the sustainable fashion community in Hong Kong in particular, because you mentioned before when you were in Copenhagen, that was the first time you experienced slow living. And how would you contrast that with the life in Hong Kong currently?
I would say for sure Hong Kong has a very a quicker paced life, very fast paced actually. But I think sustainability or sustainable fashion is really catching up. Sorry, your question was, can you repeat your question again?
Yeah, no worries. It's more of like, how would you contrast it? You almost answered, yeah. It's like the contrast between Copenhagen and Hong Kong.
Oh, the contrast.
As well as how would you describe the sustainable fashion community?
I think coming back from such a slow-paced city, I felt at work the stress level is much higher because people have expectations of things being finished quickly in a short period of time, giving them a lot of designs. So it is a very different kind of mindset. And I think this applies to everyone in different fields. And in a way, it's not very healthy, because I know a lot of people, a lot of friends who tell me they go shopping as therapy. And that's probably because you just feel so stressed at work. And when shopping becomes like, if you treat it as shopping therapy, you're probably impulse buying stuff you don't need. It's probably something you desire, but not necessarily what you want. So I think that's not very unhealthy. You know, I guess fast fashion is also like goes with this kind of culture. It encourages you to buy something you probably don't want in the first place because it's so cheap. People feel like, okay, if I bought it and even don't wear it, it's fine. I'm just going to chuck it next season. So I think it's not a very healthy cycle in this city. But then I also see a lot of sustainable brands coming up, and I think there's space and a lot of potential for us to grow this circular fashion community.
Yeah, I am guilty of retail therapy sometimes as well. You know, like joy from new items, but I know that not everyone can afford that, and so how can the idea or the practice of ethical fashion and recycled fashion be better promoted to the grassroots community for those that are less privileged in that sense?
I don't necessarily agree that it's not as affordable for everyone. I mean, even in terms of like secondhand stores, I mean, there are shops like Hula who sells branded secondhand items, but then there's also Green Ladies, where their items are it's also a secondhand store, but they sell, I think, good quality, but very, very affordable priced secondhand garments, which ranges from 80 Hong Kong dollars to, I think, 300. So I think there are different options out there when we try to look into it. And basically recycling and upcycling it, we're talking about something that you can do yourself at home. I think it's just the modern day consumer forgetting that we actually have the skill of just taking up the needle and thread to do some darning, do some patchwork by yourself, to, you know, refresh your wardrobe in a way that doesn't need to cost any money. I mean, of course, there are sustainable brands out there which are expensive, but you don't necessarily have to consume expensive stuff. But then another way of looking at it is there's a term called cost per wear, because I also would definitely use my money to vote for sustainable brands, which might be more expensive than normal brands, but there is a reason for it, because that's when you mentioned ethical production. Fast fashion is cheap only because someone is paying for it in Bangladesh. They're probably just getting $1 per month as their salary. That's why it's cheap. And sustainable brands or ethically produced brands are more expensive because they, like, the workers are paid a fairer wage. So back to the cost per wear. People only think that fast fashion is cheap because, okay, sorry. Cost per wear means if you bought an item for $1,000, if you wore it 100 times, the cost per wear would be $10 per time, right? Have I got it right? 10, 100? My math. But so you just divide the price of your item by the number of times you wear it. Sometimes then actually the cost of fast fashion items you buy and not wear might be more expensive than an actually expensive item which you decide to buy and wear many times, if not forever. If you wear it a lot, then the cost per wear goes down. So it depends on how you look at it, I think.
Yeah, thank you. We also understand that, like, by using the method of like calculating cost per wear, which is like, it's very uncommon for us when we are going to purchase the clothes, and we will think of, and we now learn that we can have this concept behind. And also maybe fast fashion is actually like even more expensive than what we think of. Yeah, and yeah, because I'm also somehow a shopaholic before, and I always spend a lot of money buying new clothes. But now, because I know that some of the clothes, indeed, actually, I saw it was on sale, and I just purchased it on my instinct. But at the end, I didn't wear it for once, and I throw it away. And this is what just called, like, we can calculate the cost per wear when we purchase the clothes beforehand. Yeah. Okay. And also, I would like to ask, because we also noticed your brand not just aim for sustainability, but also ethical, just as what you mentioned just now. So do you think there's a strong correlation between sustainability and also ethical fashion?
I think it's all one thing. I think sustainable fashion or circular fashion should include ethical production, because we're talking about, I mean, the ideal world, I imagine, is that this fashion industry should conserve and restore the environment, as well as place the people over growth and profit. So I think in order to achieve these 2 points, I think in achieving capitalism or just earning more money, people forget to put the environment and people before just the dollar sign. So I think it goes hand in hand, environment, nature, and people. So ethical production should be part of the bigger umbrella, which is sustainable fashion.
Yeah, I really agree that like this should be like under an umbrella, and we should like cooperate together like hand in hand. And this is what
Mhm.
aligned with our aim, like that Think Ocean. We would like to gather all people together and also to aim for like a better future in the end.
Mhm.
So as we received one of the question in the Q&A section, it's about
Mhm.
like as you mentioned that fast fashion and also the relation and also like at versus sustainable fashion, like is there any ways to make sustainable fashion cheaper, like maybe like the production method, or how we can actually, because as some of the brand we noticed that sustainable fashion is really at a higher price thing, and is there any way to make this thing more cheaper and also affordable for everyone?
I think if everyone starts shopping sustainable, then the price will go down. That's just what will happen naturally, because it's only expensive because when we do production on a small batch, it's gonna be expensive. And when you're doing big batches, then the prices go down. That's just how it is. Just like when, I mean, at Fashion Clinic, we repair and redesign one clothing for one client at any one time. So, I mean, it can't be cheap because I am paying Hong Kong tailor, and we have a team of 3 in Hong Kong. Everything is made and produced in our studio here. So yeah, it's not easy to run a truly sustainable business. So I hope people can understand that we're actually well, actually, a lot of sustainable brands I know are underpaying themselves, just like us at the moment. So yeah, I think it's time. Um, we just need some time for more consumers and customers to understand the reason why it's expensive. And when more people are buying it, I think we can slowly reduce the price.
Yeah, I think that relates to a lot of environmental issues as well. With more awareness comes better solutions, and in this case, cheaper solutions with more people in it. And so we also have another question coming up is, in light of sustainable fashion, aside from recycling and upcycling, such as your fashion clinic provides, do you practice carbon neutral fashion? And how so?
Carbon neutral fashion. I believe we are already practicing that, I assume. If I mean, everything's made locally, so and we don't use any new materials. So I mean, the thing we use is just electricity in our studios. That's all. So I would consider maybe yes, we're already doing that.
Yeah, then that is a very holistic way of sustainable fashion in this. Since we're on a very tight time constraint, I should say we can finish off with one of a more personal question regarding our audiences today. So for example, what steps or any advice would you give to young people or young students to have a sustainable future?
I think, I mean, especially for people who will go into the fashion industry, be it designers or people who are going to fashion marketing and everything. I think we always forget that we should actually design where the need is, and not just design pretty things. I mean, the need is there. I mean, we should only design something when there is a need for something. I think this is very important for people not to forget. And another thing is, which I've already mentioned just now, it's actually from Fashion Revolution, the NGO in London. They say that the fashion industry should be one that restores and conserves the environment and place people before growth and profit, which I hope people can remember. I think this is very important.
Yes. And one last question is, since 2020, the pandemic hit a lot. And so how has the pandemic affected the fashion industry? And if you're comfortable sharing, how has it affected your brand in particular?
Well, I think pre-COVID days, we developed a lot in terms of giving talks and workshops that was in a very popular demand, and we did a lot of that. So since COVID, I think we stopped most of the talks and workshops, as well as working for theatre groups who are more open to using upcycling as a design process, and celebrities who do concerts. Like everything was everything was canceled basically last year. So I thought maybe it's time for us to really focus on the fashion industry. So I went and spoke to a lot of fashion stores and labels, and their problem was that they didn't have the chance to go overseas to Fashion Week to buy new collections. And at the same time, sales was so bad that they were stuck with a lot of dead stock or off-season stock. So I started doing redesigning for them. So we worked together on pulling out the off-season pieces that we thought had a lot of potential, and I redesigned them and presented it as a new collection to put in store for these fashion brands and select shops like Cocktail, Kapak, Atsuro Toyama, and so Tove and Libra, and even like Sogo now. We've worked on quite a few collections since June last year.
Okay, thanks, Kay, for sharing with us. And I think the time is soon at the end. I would like to ask all the participants, do you have any more extra questions you would like to ask Kay in this time? If not, I will going to end the talk soon. And maybe Tiffany will do the wrap up a bit. And thanks, Kay, for joining us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, we have some questions in the Q&A. Since you mentioned your brand, you collaborate with other art forms like theater and stage. Do you see parallels between fashion and these other art forms?
Sorry, do
you see any parallels between fashion and other art forms?
I mean, to me, it's always been one thing. It's design and art is pretty much the same thing to me. It's about putting your creativity into whatever I do, actually. And I apply upcycling and not using virgin material into my art and design practices. So yeah, basically it's just one big thing altogether.
Yeah. And this is more of a personal question from one of our participants is, have design and fashion always been your biggest interest?
Has fashion design been my biggest interest?
Yes.
I would say yes. I mean, I studied textile design, knitting, and fashion print in my uni days. So that was my specialization. But I mean, ever since I was 6, I started collecting magazine clippings and everything. So I kind of knew since I was a kid that I wanted to go this direction. Because it's something close to the skin, something about expressing your individuality, and it's kind of also sculpture in the body. So it's always been something that's close to my heart, I think.
That's a very heartwarming way to see it. And I know that you do creative stitching and learned a lot of different styles of weaving. So then, are there some interesting new technological advances in sustainable textiles?
There has been so much, though. I mean, it's impressive how a lot of designers or scientists who have gone into look into different kind of materials to make different kinds of leather substitutes, like using mushroom, orange peel, pineapple leaves to create leather-like material. And I have the most admiration for these people, because they have to spend maybe up to 10 years or 15 years to make this material work. Yeah, so I think these people are very admirable. But at the same time, I'm also looking into easier and quicker ways to recycle textile, because textiles recycling is very complicated, because you know that there are a lot of blend fabrics, but the recycling of fabric kind of needs huge spaces and a lot of labor to do the sorting of material. So I'm looking into a new technology that can help us not go through all the sorting process. It's a small machine, and through needle punching, we can create new fabric from fabric scraps. So that's what I'm working on currently.
We also received 2 more questions in the chat room. So we will, after we answer these 2 questions, and we will stop the section today. I'd also like to ask you a question, like, did you start your wonderful project by yourself or with a team of friends? We know that you start your brand with your like a co-organizer. So can you tell me like how, because this is a friend from Italy, she also like to ask how we can start the project with a team of friends, and also or by yourself only?
I mean, at the very beginning, it was just myself with my personal project, No New Clothes, just kind of a blog, just blogging about my journey. But then soon I realized it's very difficult to achieve something with just being a one-man band. So I started speaking to a lot of like-minded people. I think that's normally how magic starts, like just speak to the people you like, who are doing something you think is going in that direction. And I think naturally you will meet like-minded people who might be thinking on a similar wavelength to you, that you can maybe collaborate with. I think starting small is the key to being able to start a business in sustainable fashion, keeping all the costs low. Yeah. So, I mean, at the moment, we've grown into a collective with our jeweler, our hat maker, our in-house embroidery. Yeah, so we've got a bunch now. So that's great to be able to have a team, support each other, and that's how we kind of grow bigger slowly.
Yeah, just now you also mentioned about that you stopped buying clothes for an entire year. So one of our participants asked, like, would you mind to give us some advice on how you adjust yourself to stop buying clothes?
I mean, it helped a lot that I lived in Copenhagen, where life was really simple. I mean, most of the people I met, it seemed as if they have no desires. So yeah, it became quite a natural process for me. But when I felt that urge to kind of refresh my looks or my wardrobe, I would go secondhand shopping, or I also realized that if or when you have a group of friends with similar taste or body shapes, it's the best thing to clear our wardrobes like around the same time and just do a swap party. I think that's like the most amazing thing. Yeah, and also just being a designer myself, it's easy to spice up my wardrobe or looks by simply re-sewing some of my garments, unpicking something and changing my look. I realized I've just forgotten about that in my very busy days running my business before. So yeah, basically there's a lot you can do without consuming new clothes, I think.
Yeah, I feel very inspired to text my friends later and say, hey, do you want to empty out our closets and swap? I think our styles would very like interchange and it'll be a new experience. And then, so I guess we can start, finish off with like a more broad question is like, what is your next step for your brand? Perhaps to expand into a jewelry fashion, or is there something like bigger on your mind?
Well, I think there are two things. I mean, with our individual repair redesign service, we're now trying to streamline it into giving our customers suggestions. So we've done a new kind of so-called collection. So you can bring in 3 pair of jeans and we can turn them into a denim jacket for you. We can turn your shirt into a certain off-shoulder cape-like garment. So we've got now kind of a menu with options you can choose. Because before, when we did it, we did a one-to-one session with our clients. It's every time it's a new case and every single design was unique. Now that we've got, you know, maybe 8 designs customers can choose from, it's easier for us, and we're teaming up with Jeeves, the like a really high quality dry cleaner in Hong Kong. They've got 3 shops in Hong Kong. They've got their front of house to take the orders for us, like a driving team to drop off the items in our studio, so we don't have to meet the customer. So it's simplifying everything. So we just need to focus on doing the work without meeting the customer. So that's our fashion clinic's next step. And as I've mentioned to you earlier, I'm investing on this new needle punching technique from the States that will allow us to recycle fabric in a really quick way and a very quite simple mechanics without having to sort the fabrics. So that's the new step I'm taking this year.
Thank you, Kay, for having the time with us and spending your precious time with us today. Thank you very much to Ms. Wong and your very insightful comments today, along with everyone for attending today's fashion talk show. I hope today's talk has inspired some of you regarding sustainability and how we can change fast fashion. We understand about the rationale behind your brand and also the idea of cost per wear and also the options you offer, like a brand offer to regenerate garments. And I'm looking forward to exchange clothes with my friends and also have a clothes exchanging party with my friends. And so please feel free to check out Ms. Wong, 2 brands, and follow her social media. And lastly, Think Ocean CUHK has another webinar tomorrow about the future of finance, where our team will talk about the ESG and sustainable finance. The talk tomorrow will start at 5:15 p.m. and HKT via Zoom. If anyone of you are interested, you can register through the link which is sent in the chat room. Yeah, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you, Kate.